American lawmakers and politicians are really going after the world's biggest battery company, CATL. They have no problems with other Chinese battery companies like Goshon High-Tech, but for some reason, they are vehemently, vitriolically against, I don't even know if that's even a word, but they're very much against CATL. And they want to make sure that CATL and Tesla break their ties and CATL plays no part in the future of American EVs. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. And I think that some of these American politicians are being irrational. I don't agree with what they're saying. I think if you're going to make this rule, okay, but you need to make it for everyone. You can't just pick and choose which Chinese companies you decide to deal with. CATL is a private company. Yeah, they're the most valuable private company in China, but they're not owned by the government. There are companies, plenty of them, like SAIC, MG, etc., that are basically government-owned, or at least, and we all know the Chinese government secretly owns Alibaba, or sort of. So, what does this mean? Well, I should point out this isn't actually just CATL. For example, Joe Biden, before he became the president of the US, went on some pretty epic rants against BYD. And BYD do have a car factory, and not a car factory, but they do have factories in the US. In fact, they've got a few factories in the US. They hire a lot of staff, thousands of them. They build buses and school buses and normal buses and trucks, electric ones in the US. They've been doing this now for quite a number of years. Now, US lawmakers have been trying to get Ford and Tesla to basically end their ties with CATL. Congressmen want the EV maker to detail their relationships with the Chinese battery manufacturer and have concerns that electric vehicle subsidies are flowing to foreign entities. Anyway, a senior Republican, in fact, there's been a few of them, and like I said, Biden himself is probably one of these, he's just not making this public right now, have asked Tesla Tuesday to detail their relationship with Chinese battery manufacturer CATL amid concerns electric vehicle subsidies are flowing to foreign entities, raising security concerns. Now, I should point out, this particular lawmaker hasn't gone after Ford, who obviously sell EVs, the Mustang Mach-E, for example, with CATL's lithium iron phosphate batteries. There are other manufacturers doing it, but it's really primarily Ford and Tesla that use CATL batteries. The chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Representative Jason Smith, asked Tesla CEO Elon Musk in a letter if the EV maker has contracts with CATL or is considering contracts. Now, obviously, American politicians can't be stupid enough to not know that Tesla has contracts with CATL. I mean, it's their biggest battery supplier in the world. And if this politician doesn't know that, and he can't figure that out in a 5-second Google search, then I'm sorry, he shouldn't be a politician. He's utterly stupid. Anyway, Smith said the committee is concerned CATL may be trying to negotiate other agreements like the agreement with Ford. So yeah, they are concerned that CATL has any role whatsoever in future American battery manufacturing. And the biggest concern here shouldn't be Tesla. If the US government is in fact concerned, it should actually be Ford, because Tesla haven't announced their plan. They probably want to, but they haven't announced the plan to build a battery factory making CATL batteries on license in the US. That's what Ford want to do. And I actually think that's a good idea. It gives a lot of jobs to Ford. It means Ford won't have to get those batteries from China. So making them in the US, in my opinion, and paying a royalty fee to CATL, I think that's a pretty good deal. Anyway, quite a few American politicians are completely against that, but they agreed to and approved 2 massive lithium iron phosphate battery factories in America, which both have approval by Goshon High-Tech, also a Chinese battery company. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, Republicans in Congress have been probing Ford's planned $3.5 billion investment to build a battery plant in Michigan using technology from CATL, the world's largest battery maker. Now, if the government was to say on political lines, grounds, or even on some sort of logical argument, not approve Ford's EV or Ford's battery factory, then I think they'd lose this in court. I don't think they've got a chance in hell of winning this one, because you can't go ahead, set a precedent by approving Goshon High-Tech's battery factories, 2 of them, and then not approve Ford's when there's just no reason to do so. It's not like I said, there's no evidence the Chinese government owns anything of CATL. In fact, the Chinese government's been very critical of CATL. It seems like they're considering curbing their power. They're saying, we're worried about CATL, we don't want them to have a minority, and they've really critiqued them over the last 6 months. They haven't really been that positive about the company. The auto industry is watching how new rules around future electric vehicle tax credits will be implemented as they make investment decisions on producing batteries for their transition to EVs. Now, the reality is here, Tesla will be taxed on CATL battery cells. So CATL provide Tesla the cells, Tesla put them into a pack in the US, and they're able to still claim them under the IRS EV incentives. Those rules will change in the future. But the reason they can claim those batteries is because basically the metals inside them come from Australia. Australia is the biggest exporter of lithium. It was very obvious, put two and two together. Australia is a free trade partner with the US. So therefore, CATL said to the US government, well, we get most of the materials here for our batteries from Australia. They're your free trade partner. Then Tesla's actually doing all the packaging work. So Tesla's adding a lot of value add to the batteries. CATL is just giving them the cells. There's quite a bit of other work going on here. It's not just simply a Chinese product. And that's how they can qualify for EV incentives. But that'll all change. In fact, within a few years, they won't qualify at all. In 2022, Congress passed the $430 billion Inflation Reduction Act. This bars future electric vehicle tax credits if any battery components are manufactured or assembled by a foreign entity of concern. So a foreign entity of concern technically is China. The foreign entity of concern rules are aimed at weaning the United States off Chinese supply chains and come into effect in 2024 for completed batteries and 2025 for critical minerals used to produce them. The question is what precisely constitutes a foreign entity of concern, and so far no foreign battery supply has been labelled as such. But of course, it's simply a matter of time before this happens. Smith asked Elon Musk whether, aside from boosting North American manufacturing, that Tesla had taken any actions to increase production of the number of vehicles that will qualify for the clean vehicle credit. Now, all of this is quite bizarre because Tesla is clearly the most American-made manufacturer in America. By far, it takes first, second, third, fourth positions for all of its cars almost every single year. Basically, that confirms what people didn't know, which is that the majority of Tesla's parts come from US manufacturers, which is awesome. Really, if you want to start doing these kinds of probes, some of these politicians clearly like probing, but you know what I mean? If you want to do that, why not go after the car companies in the US that are making all their stuff, all their parts? General Motors, for example, a lot of their parts come from who? Who's their biggest supplier? Hyundai Grobus. Where are those parts made? Them in the US. Anyway, Smith also wrote to Nissan asking for details about its battery suppliers and whether its US manufacturing plans include the production of batteries or battery components for EVs. Now, I don't think Nissan knows yet because, I mean, come on, it's Nissan. Anyway, Tesla and Nissan have not responded to the media for good reason. This is ridiculous. Anyway, in July, Smith and Mike Gallagher, Republican chair of the Select Committee on China, demanded Ford answer questions about the CATL deal. We are concerned that the deal could simply facilitate the partial onshoring of PRC-controlled battery technology, raw materials, and employees while collecting tax credits and flowing funds back to CATL through the licensing agreement, the letter to Ford said. Got to keep in mind, though, this is also keeping a lot of economic activity staying in the US. I just think, hey, it's better that it stays in the US. Probably 80% of the revenue would go straight to Ford, not to China or CATL, if Ford were to actually build this battery factory in the US. So it seems like a very political issue here. And of course, like I said, why set a precedent and say it's all right for one company to do it and not for another? Goshan High-Tech has the same ability to possibly get some sort of incentives from the Chinese government. Anyway, Ford told Reuters on Tuesday it agrees that US taxpayer dollars should support American manufacturers, not foreign entities of concern. It defended its planned battery plant as one owned and controlled solely by Ford, a proud American company. And hey, Ford's right. Licensing the battery technology means CATL would just make a few percent. It's not much. Anyway, Ford is awaiting guidance from the US Treasury to ensure the partnership does not run afoul of the act. Smith wrote Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen Tuesday saying she should immediately issue the guidance and make clear in the most comprehensive way possible that taxpayer subsidies cannot flow to foreign entities of concern through any structuring mechanism conceivable. Now, CATL are building battery factories in many countries outside of China, Europe, etc. None of these comments and concerns have been raised. Basically, these countries just think this is good economic activity in our country. And that's an interesting issue. I mean, what I want to know is, what do you think about that? Do you agree with that statement? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.